M690 Studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter @Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv. Andrew J. Polk has already have some chiming in over there, including Mondo Moncanda. Appreciate you doing that and demonstrating very aptly how easy it is to interject, become a part of the conversation, even if it's just a greeting for right now. Still appreciate it in due course as we continue our dual main missions to A, have live local talk radio in the borderland, because damn it, I still think we deserve it, and don't see myself being dissuaded of that opinion anytime soon. And also to talk about the things that affect us right here, because no one else is going to have that conversation the way the people who live here have these issues, all these kind of things affect us at home right here have happened. And that's certainly been a part of the conversation going on in a variety of ways, not even just on our airwaves recently. And we'll get into that here in just a second. But a few things that we're wanting to address, adjust, get into today is, of course, Talk El Paso, brought to you in part by Sunland Park, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Again, find them online, Sunland Park, Jeep, Chrysler, Dodge, Ram.net, or just go to 950 Crockett Street, right across from Sunland Park Mall, across I-10. Sunland Park, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. But a lot on the mind today, as there's, well, a lot going on. Continues to be a lot going on. I'm still never quite going to believe that there's going to be a day when there isn't a lot going on, but other alternatives for the Bridge of the Americas expansion being discussed after some different things going on with the, well, possibilities and the responses, specifically both in the community, county commissioners interjecting themselves in there, and of course this being a federal conversation pretty immediately. Federal agencies and also representatives, including El Paso's Congresswoman, weighing in on that. So more alternatives being discussed, potentials in any case, but we'll talk more about that, as well as, it's for those of you who are very conscious of these things. This, no, it's not the day after tax day, but a very particular day. Let's just say we'll be marking that 1 year since cannabis legalization in the state of New Mexico. And there is a lot of numbers that have been broken down. We'll talk about more about those, and the fact that that's why you're seeing it in the news a lot today, because of that very particular. It's 420 is what I'm trying to say out here. I can't think of a clever way to just say that. So if you know, you know, all I'm going to say. Also, of course, the Texas legislature moving forward a couple of interesting new bills, ones that very much go towards some of the core issues that Governor Greg Abbott has put forth, specifically on sexually explicit material in school libraries and diversity and inclusion initiatives, or getting rid of both sets of things. Also, there's a lot of other things going on. And yeah, I know we got the whole Alec Baldwin thing going on. That's technically in the backyard, but it's probably not our primary focus today. But I will say that we are going to be talking today about Proposition K. Our interview today with some of the naysayers on the item, specifically today with the Consumer Energy Alliance, interviewing the regional executive director for that. His perspective, their breakdown of the issues, and why they are, spoiler alert, urging you to vote no, delving into that and some of the controversy surrounding some of the issues and the whole out-of-town debate, which is, again, part of the conversation been going on. There's a lot of the people chiming in right now, including Austin Redfern. Greetings, and to also, as well as fellow Talk El Paso listeners, contributors, and Trump haters. Be careful what you wish for is all I'm saying. Kane Cardova over on the YouTube saying that they made weed legal, but they can't get our prescription meds. Unreal. Other things, and we'll talk maybe a little bit about that as well. Ida Beza Gardner with the hello and the wave as well. And Marky Mandingo, good afternoon to you as well, Mr. Mandingo. So let's just jump straight into some of what's going on in the area. Yeah, Bridge of the Americas, that has been, you want to highlight a bigger, like community-wide or face community-wide impact transportation project that has been a problem should be a project, has been a problem. Probably the best way to put it, because it doesn't matter which side of town. If you're trying to get to the other side of it, I mean, even, northeast, if you're trying to cross anywhere near the vicinity of the Franklin Mountains and you're not taking Trans Mountain, yeah, you're running into, and based on the time of day, particularly, morning and afternoon rush hours, though I feel like rush hour isn't the right phrase to describe what goes on towards that one specific international bridge. Is kind of like the hurry up and wait time, because you want to get in that line and then you're not moving through that line. I still knock on wood that I'm lucky enough that I am not required to do that as part of my daily transit or job duties. You can't particularly imagine a way that I would have to, but still count myself lucky, because its backups and issues coming with it are significant. And so that's why the conversation and the money specifically around the projects for the expansion of it have been, getting increasingly focused on. I don't think there's many people that would say, oh no, there's nothing that needs to be done with that area. It's totally fine. Now, that's, again, anyone even just casually passing by that has run into that traffic, hopefully not literally run into that traffic, knows that it's bad, just simply put. So the expansion plans of it have a level of interest, but given the tight quarters that we deal with over there, looking at having more expansion quickly runs into several important things, whether it be other roadways, national monuments, or the County Coliseum. So there was actually a news conference earlier today from El Paso's Congresswoman Veronica Escobar that our news partners at KFOX 14 or at that. We have talked previously about three major different plans that were put forth for the expansion or revamping, at the very least, of the Bridge of the Americas. The plan number one did include basically within the existing footprints, modifications being made there within. The plan number two involved taking over the basically southern chunk of the arena site. Sorry, not the arena on the brain. Shows how much we've talked about that over the years. The County Coliseum, what I'm referring to here, and the southern part of its site. Not the Coliseum itself, but all of the land surrounding it. Basically everything besides the Coliseum and its immediately adjacent parking lot would be, on the chopping block. But then option three did include then the Coliseum itself. So what Veronica Escobar, again, El Paso's Congresswoman, did say is that there are other designs, other alternates that are potential plans for it. That's, quoted directly, none of the alternates touch the neighborhoods, touch any private property. It only impacts the state of Texas and the county of El Paso. Now, of course, it's the GSA, the General Services Administration, make sure I get that one right, which, of course, is the federal agency that's handling the tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars that would go into this project. There is the first alternative that leaves pretty much everything alone, but it's not as simple as just saying, okay, yeah, let's go with that one, because there's feasibility. And there's also other aspects of this that have been interjected, specifically that of should the commercial traffic even be there? As there has been a lot of focus in other areas, other parts of the county, other ports of entry. And that's one of the items that we mentioned yesterday. The county has put forth of, hey, just send it out to Tornillo. Why not? We put all this investment out there. We got all these bridges and port facilities. We're going to do a major expansion. Why not build on that? So again, from our news partners at KFOX 14, they do have the kind of full demonstration of all the areas, the easements, the things that have been discussed. So you want to see even some 3D renderings I hadn't seen before. You want to check that out for yourself. Article title from our news partners at KFOX 14, Escobar, BOTA expansion. Project designs don't include removal of Coliseum, hockey. So check that out for yourself. And then, it's 420. At least one new dispensary has opened up in Sunland Park, which is interesting to me. Not necessarily that I care that much about going to it. It's not my bag, but the fact that there weren't more of them already. I had this expectation that after the legalization in New Mexico that we'd be seeing all these, again, maybe I should have trademarked it, the side door pot store or something like that, or State Line Part Depot. I don't know. There's a lot of clever ways to do that, though. Yes, the law enforcement implications are also significant. Not going to say that that's not a factor at all. But there's a new one, but also, of course, some of the numbers that have come out starting as of earlier this month about how much actually economic impact has been seen since the legalization of pot. No, it didn't happen today, 1 year ago, but it happened at the start of April in time for 420, as everyone who knows what that number means or has any vague associations with it knows is the pot holiday. Let's just call it that. There's a whole lot of urban legends that go around it. So just kind of reviewing and seeing how it's worked out so far as of the start of the month, that it was seen that New Mexico made about $300 million in cannabis sales. The amount of actual tax revenue seen from that in about the $30 million range, give or take. I think just below, $27 million, according to some of the state revenue information coming out there, with specifically City of Sunland Park making about $600,000 in cannabis sales. So seeing some of it with Las Cruces seeing about $20 million in sales happening. So it's of interest, but maybe not totally the boom that was expected, though. I don't know. Maybe I had different expectations. It kind of seemed like there was a lot of sound and fury around, particularly on this side of the state line, of concern about it. What is it going to do with local or some of the state enforcement police departments? And I'm not saying that there weren't anyway, but I haven't particularly heard of any. I'll be honest with you about that there just hasn't been that same amount of concern, uproar, of the anticipation of it borne out in reality. So I'm sure there has been some, but also Texas has its own little bit of fiddliness when it comes to enforcing such statutes, as there has been the whole industrial hemp movements, increasing ability of it. There was a period of time in which there was basically no way to test if there were below the required percentages, those kind of things. So that's been certainly a part of it. John Brazelton mentioning that over in California, they're losing illegal pot stores because the state has regulated and overtaxed them. Not sure if there's any particular implications about that. I mean, we got new ones, at least a couple that I'm aware of, either opening or celebrating. I'm sure plenty are celebrating the day. I have no doubt in my mind about that. But definitely at least one new opening. Monica Cervantes saying, we have a lot of new dispensaries here in Las Cruces. Not my thing either, just one around every corner now. So, okay, maybe I'm wrong about my boom associations or lack thereof. But, well, let's tell you what, if anyone's got any implications out there that they'd like to share or your opinions on it, once we get to those phone lines, encourage y'all to call, because we'd love to hear about that. And I know that there's been focus pretty much in the nearish by communities, particularly for ours. I mean, Sunland Park, Chaparral, another focus, and then, of course, Las Cruces proper being one of the major areas. I mean, nothing to sneeze at with that, getting into, what is that, 9-10 figures? Am I doing my math right? No, sorry, 9-figure numbers. There we go. Anyway, let's go take the first break right now. Coming out of this break, our interview today, delving into some of the opposition to Proposition K with one of the groups that has certainly been making a splash, if only with the notice and advertising around town, the Consumer Energy Alliance, CEA for short, there with their website, No Way on Prop K, one of the slogans going around on this. So talking with them about this, the issues, their interest in it, as well as the whole out-of-town connotation. So that and a whole lot more coming up after this break. You are tuned in to Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. Phone calls a little bit later, as we usually do, but in any case, stay tuned. Talk El Paso after this break on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 eastbound approaching the Dallas exit, a minor accident possible with two vehicles up on the left shoulder. I-10 eastbound slow traffic, 6-minute delays from the downtown exits, Wyoming Avenue over to the 54 Patriot. A crash reported southbound Global Reach at Montana Avenue. That's where delays southbound Global Reach are already 35 minutes long. And an injury accident downtown Stanton, south of Franklin Avenue. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
How could $1,000 change your life?
I could buy eggs.
Then listen for inflation compensation. Your chance to win $1,000 to combat high prices.
Honey, we're going to have eggs.
Yes! It's excellent. Be listening for your chance to win $1,000 with inflation compensation.
Listen for your chance to win $1,000 every hour, 9 through 5 p. with the inflation compensation on News Radio 690 AM. Brought to you by Charlie Clark Nissan and Charlie Clark Infiniti of El Paso.
Orale!
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com, and I sell custom blinds designed for do-it-yourselfers. Unlike stock blinds offered at big box retailers, Blindster blinds are custom made for your windows and shipping is free. Don't hire an expensive pro. Do it yourself and save big at Blindster.com.
When your back pain is your foot's fault. This is Dean's story.
It was affecting me when I walked, which is a kind of a common activity.
Dean's chronic back pain had become a pain in the you-know-what.
At first, I just sort of ignored it, but eventually everything catches up to you.
Physically and mentally.
Back pain affects your mood. It really does.
But that's not the only connection Dean made.
A friend of mine suggested I go to the Good Feet store. I was a little confused. Why would I need a foot store? My feet are fine.
But he thought, what the heck? He had nothing to lose.
They took impressions of my feet, and with the footprint, they were able to get me a personalized arch support that lifted pressure off my back.
So the source of your back pain was right under your toes.
It's something maybe I should have known, but I found out in the nicest possible way.
See how arch supports work for you with a free fitting. Find your Good Feet store at goodfeet.com.
Airway Boulevard at I-10.
Make the right choice for your home when it comes to windows and doors. For more than 20 years, the Window Depot has provided the best price and biggest inventory on in-stock windows and doors. The Window Depot is open to the public, so whether you're a homeowner or a contractor, you can shop the enormous warehouse. Browse the shelves with over 1,000 vinyl windows, interior and patio doors and skylights in several varieties and sizes available to go home today. Shop thewindowdepot.com or find a location near you. Lowest prices, biggest inventory.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-334-2266. That's 800-334-2266. 800-334-2266.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of people tuning in, chiming in over there, including Matt Olson. Yo. Okay, maybe not the total intonation there, but a lot of O's and Y's there, so to you as well. And then also chiming in over on the YouTube, specifically Zolex Design and Vincenzo. Hi to you too, bro. But I mean, a lot of conversations going on over there in different ways, and keep those going in the comments. But getting into our interviews for the day, or one major one over the next couple of segments, the way we do, we've had more than a little bit of conversation about Proposition K, the parts, participles. I mean, we went in depth on the actual item itself with the proponents and, in some cases, authors of the item itself that is again coming up on this upcoming May 6th ballot. But there's also a lot of other conversation going on when it comes to the points or disagreement therein. So we are able to get a hold of one of the organizers that has been pushing very much against this message and talk to them about those positions and the whole out-of-town influence conversation. So that is with the Consumer Energy Alliance. So here is that interview. Enjoy. Joining me now, we have Matthew Gonzalez, Executive Director for the Southwest of the Consumer Energy Alliance. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Hey, Andrew, thanks for having me. Really do appreciate it.
Absolutely happy to have you on, because this is a conversation that's been going on for months now, arguably better parts of years, when it comes to the issues surrounding climate policy related things, and all specifically encapsulated most recently around Proposition K, which suggests for the El Paso City Charter are adding Article 9 climate policy. Now, this is an issue that has been getting a lot of airtime, a lot of discussion, and a lot of focus, even just on our program, but also around here locally. But you all are a name that with of the Consumer Energy Alliance that has been coming more prevalent, again, including our airways, but in other places around town, including there have been billboards, there have been different air campaigns and things like that. So for those unfamiliar with some of these issues, particularly with y'all as yourself, what is the Consumer Energy Alliance itself?
So the Consumer Energy Alliance, we're an advocacy group that is focused on educating consumers, elected officials, really anybody out there about where our energy comes from, how much we use, and why it's important to have all of the above energy options. You have so many working families and small businesses that rely on affordable, reliable energy options. And so we try to have that conversation. Sometimes there's conversations, or sometimes you hear rhetoric around, well, you got to protect the environment, or you need to have energy production. And a lot of times those conversations, is they don't make the point that, energy is not, those two things are not mutually exclusive. They go hand in hand. And if you look at the American energy story, we are doing an incredible job here in the United States of balancing energy production with environmental stewardship. And so we try to get out there as an organization and make sure that people know that story. And that way we can be proud of the important energy industry that we have here in the United States.
So for those that are also unfamiliar, may not have seen as much of the media going on around, and also it is entirely likely, we don't control all the ads that run around this, that there may be one of the spots that you all have been placing on 690, so full transparency there, airing around the time of this interview. But for those that have not heard those, or those that are still unfamiliar, what specifically is the position that you all are taking when it comes to Proposition K?
So our position is pretty simple: vote no. Proposition K is definitely going to increase taxes on the tax base here in El Paso. It's something that, there was not a lot of agreement between the proponents and groups like us, but that's one thing that we all agree on, that this is absolutely going to raise taxes and it's going to impact families. And so we're asking people to vote no. The concern, and I guess really a big concern for us, is that this is not something that has even gone through the city council. It was written by, a group of people, and they were able to go out there and get signatures and put it on the ballot. So it's not even really been fleshed out, so that, there can be public input. It's just going straight to the voters. And so that's not a good way to do policy, especially when you're doing something like adopting it into a charter. When you adopt it into the charter, you're going to have to, if you ever wanted to make changes to it, it would require you going back to the charter to make those changes. In a lot of instances, there's certain parts of it that'll obviously be done by the city council, but that's always really concerning. It's really hard to undo things when you put it into a charter the way that this is, the way that this proposes. So we're just trying to make sure that people, one, are educated and they understand how this is going to impact them, how it's going to impact their families. And for the, and this is a world of haves and have-nots. And so for the haves, we're trying to make sure that they understand that, well, you may be able to afford the increase in taxes. What about your neighbors? What about your family or your friends, your coworkers? How will that impact them? How will that, impact their bottom line? We see too often, and right now energy costs are up higher than they were a couple years ago. People are paying more at the gas tank. They're at the gas pump. They're paying more on their energy bills already. And so we want people to, to really think about that. People's budgets are already squeezed, and adding more on that burden, just makes it harder. I know there's a lot of seniors within this community who live on those fixed incomes, and when you increase prices on them, what does that mean? They're not going to be able to buy. It puts people in a really hard position, and they have to make hard choices. Do I pay for my medication this month because I need it, but I can't afford it if I want to keep the lights on? Or do I go without food this month? And some people say, well, that's crazy or that's ridiculous, but those are real decisions that people have to make every single day. And something like Proposition K is only going to exacerbate that problem for those type of people.
So when it comes to the taxes and those projected increases specifically, this is getting talked about in at least a couple of different ways that I'm familiar with, and I'm sure there's more out there in the community, and again in kind of that mass media type of way that we have been discussing. When it comes to that breakdown and that analysis, what are some of the numbers that you are looking at and putting out on projected impacts, particularly again taxes for the moment?
Right. So, and I don't want to speak too specific. The problem is that numbers are all over the board. I know that I want to say it was the city manager that came out recently in the paper and said that it was going to be an increase of about $20. It was either per year or per month on your average household. And then there's some projections that are higher. Now that $20 increase only covers the cost of the charter itself, which I want to say is right around $150 million. That doesn't also include the cost that, because the charter says that by any means necessary, the city should try to acquire El Paso Electric.
Right.
El Paso Electric just sold for, $4 to $5 billion, a couple of years ago. If the city were to have to incur that cost, there's a lot of estimates that it's going to be higher than $4 billion, but just say it was $4 billion even.
Sure.
A $20 increase is only raising $154 million. That's not anywhere close to $4 billion. So you're talking about a considerable increase, and people can debate on what that number is, but bottom line, it's going to hit everyone's pocketbook. And I've been hearing from people, tax bills just came out in the last couple of weeks, and a lot of people's taxes have increased. So there's already a bad taste in people's mouths because of that increase on taxes, and that has nothing to do with the charter. So now pile this on, and you can expect to see that tax bill go up every single year for years to come. And so that's the concerning part. And again, I don't want to speak too much to specifics, but bottom line is, if you can afford it, then great. But for so many that live in this community, El Paso right now has a median household income of about $50,000, which is lower than the state average. When you look at the poverty rate here in El Paso, it's higher than the state average. So those are the families that you're talking about that are going to be impacted. And that's where a group like Consumer Energy Alliance comes and gets in these fights, because it's so important that we make sure that those people have a voice. Because what I've learned is that those people oftentimes aren't participating in these meetings. They aren't going to the city council to have their voice heard. Those people are so busy grinding every day with their heads down, trying to make ends meet, trying to provide for their families. And so there's a lot of people that are probably unaware that this is even going to hit them. And when it happens, it's going to come as a shock. So we're just trying to make sure to educate as many people as possible that, that this is going on, and making sure that people show up to the polls on May 6th and vote no.
Again, if you're just joining us, guest right now is Matthew Gonzalez, Executive Director for the Southwest of the Consumer Energy Alliance. And if you want to find anything more information about them or what they're putting out, Matthew, I do believe the website that you all have on this issue is nowaypropk.com. Is that the right one?
That is correct.
Yeah, so Noway, Noway, Prop K, P-R-O-P, letter K.com is where some of that is. So, some of the information that you have on there about a potential $9 billion plus mistake, the way that you put it there, including what it might take to actually purchase of El Paso Electric, and also some of the other items on there, including the study that was put forth by the, among other things, the El Paso Chamber of Commerce about the potential impacts if this were to essentially not be handled well in a transition, if this were to be passed, and the impacts you could see on if electrical reliability wasn't basically considered as part of it, impacts on jobs, wage growth, etc., and also kind of just the costs along with it, specifically on the higher electricity costs. That's been one of the major parts of it. And again, the conversation that we had with the proponents of Proposition K, talking about they have put this forth as a way to control costs. There has been the situations from El Paso Electric specifically in recent years. Anyone who has been a bill payer in the community may be familiar with the time when the rate cases come up, when El Paso Electric is requesting an increase in the service rates. It ends up going before city council, other regulatory agencies. More often than not, ends up going into a legal proceeding that comes down to, I would say, roughly about half of what the original increase was. So kind of painting that as part of it. And then also on the idea that there would be savings in the long term via solar. So just on those aspects of this, then beyond the breakdown of the numbers when it comes to cost, on the idea of seeing more of this integrated into the El Paso system, the El Paso grid, and the ones in our area when it comes to that, the renewables, solar specifically. What's y'all's position on that?
Well, so I think there's a lot there. So let me say this.
Sure.
So public opinion has said that we want to see energy coming from cleaner sources, and I don't think that there's a person out there you'll find that doesn't agree with that sentiment. We all agree that we want a cleaner environment, we want cleaner air, we want to see energy coming from renewable sources like solar and wind, but that comes at a cost. And so part of this is that we've already got an electric grid. We've already got power production that is happening across the country. It comes from coal. It comes from natural gas. It comes from a number of sources. But in order to get to this, this ideal that we're going to have all of our energy produced with solar and wind, you're going to have to build out that infrastructure. And so that's part of why we're already seeing increased costs. And we're seeing that in every single state. Everywhere that is trying to do a better job and produce energy in a cleaner way, it's going to come at a cost because you have to build out this new infrastructure. And if you don't have the necessary gathering equipment or things like that to do it, that's just more added cost. So we're going to continue to see rate cases come before, the utility commissions or the Texas Railroad Commission, whatever group is regulating that. We're going to continue to see these things come forward as we look at this transition. transition, and it's going to come at a cost to consumers. So at our organization, we support solar, we support wind. We've got solar and wind members. So it's not something that we disagree with, but we have to do it in a way that is sustainable, and we have to do it in a way that is least impactful to the everyday consumer who can't afford it. And I think that's the biggest underlier for us. Like, you can get super wonky on a lot of this information, and we've got some people at my organization that they could literally tell you so much and educate you in such a way that you would be equipped to talk on this issue at length. But the very bottom line and the underlying message in all of this is that as we work towards a transition that is going to be cleaner, it will come with cost. And we just have to ensure that, we are doing it in a way that those consumers who can afford it least are impacted in the smallest way possible. But there's going to be an impact. And so I guess I would just start with that I think that's the most important part in all this.
So then specifically on that transition aspect of it, the study that you all referenced that came out from the, again, Chamber of Commerce in El Paso, there's been some back and forth on it about the metrics that they used on it, particularly from the proponents of it being unreasonable. The numbers that have been the most, or at least I haven't heard as much contravention on it, are the ones that you mentioned on the estimated of costs that would come down directly to taxpayers in El Paso through the initial parts of it. That roughly $150 million that you talked about cost to do the infrastructure changes with the increase in solar by 2045. And then on top of that, the roughly $5 million budget item for the actual existence of the, again, climate policy, climate department that would be called for if, again, this item were to be passed. So in those costs and those items, it is, again, both yearly and then all the way through, again, 2045, when there are some of those, carbon reduction or carbon elimination goals that would be set. The other one that comes into it, of course, particularly in that $150 million, about $12 million budgeted in that amount would be the long-range studies involved in that one particular item that you mentioned out of the Proposition K, the all available efforts, quote unquote, made to purchase and municipalize El Paso Electric. And some of the initial estimates put that as being it'll be a two-stage study. The first one being year and a half, and the second part of it, if the first one proves successful and accepted, would then take another 5 to maybe more years. The entire scope of it, again, expected to be up to $12 million and about 8 to 10 years all told expected. So something the proponents have been saying is that when it comes to that, this will not be done suddenly, will not be done all at once. And in fact, it will take probably better part of a decade to even get the ball rolling on that specific aspect of it. Costs aside, when it comes to that, when we're talking about the gradual nature of the shift, I guess, how do you all respond to that when it comes to the way that particularly the proponents are describing it?
Well, so I would tell you, I think this is a step backward. I mean, so El Paso Electric has already said that they are committed to getting to 80% clean energy by 2035 and 100% by 2045. Now, I have the privilege of serving as a mayor in a small town in New Mexico. And I will tell you, and this comes from a government person, government is the worst at doing these types of projects. Government, you can look at across the board at just about any municipality in the country, you'll find residents or citizens who are unsatisfied with a utility or a service that they receive from government because it's just not handled properly. And so while the proponents say, it's going to be this cost savings, it's going to be that, the reality of it is that El Paso Electric is already working towards that goal. By pushing this to the municipality and saying, okay, City of El Paso is going to have to purchase this, and now you're dealing with all of the bureaucracy and you're dealing with the political shift in the winds and just depending on who's in power. And now it's subject to all these other things that now can create delays. And you mentioned it, lawsuits. A lot of this stuff can end up in lawsuits. And so it delays a lot of that stuff. Whereas you have a private company in El Paso Electric that can work towards that can figure out where, how that works best. And they can kind of do that internal modeling so that they can come up with something that works for them. I personally think, government and not a knock on anyone. Everyone will put their best effort forward, but you're gonna get a substandard product based on what you're already currently getting. So, the proponents, they love to say that it's gonna be so much more improved. And I hate to say it, but I think they're misleading voters when they say that. I think they're flat out wrong.
Again, if you're just joining us, guest right now is Matthew Gonzalez, Executive Director for the Southwest with the Consumer Energy Alliance. Again, the specific information we're talking about, their perspective on this, if you want to see it for yourself, nowayprop.com. That's NOWAYPROP letter K.com. So we got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, continue briefly talking more with Matthew about this and some of the other issues that y'all have been bringing up. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this brief break on News Radio 690 KTSM.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update. A school counselor in Las Cruces reportedly called authorities after a younger student missed 28 days of school, and what authorities say they found appears nothing short of nightmarish. As a result, a man and woman, both aged 29, are both behind bars, arrested after the woman's children reportedly tested positive for drugs. Officers arrested Teresa, Mary Bagley, and Fernando Loya of Las Cruces yesterday. The school staff tried to visit Bagley's home, but she refused to let them in, according to documents. The school staff also reported the school-aged child had shown up to school with dirty clothes. Authorities reported that the living conditions were almost unlivable, describing the home as a hoarder status and describing how they were met with the smell of urine and had to hold onto the walls to step over things. Bagley was charged in 2017 with possession of a controlled substance after she was charged with child abuse in 2016 and placed on 3 years probation. I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
I-10 is slow with 10-minute delays through the downtown area from Franklin over to the 54 Patriot. That's after a minor accident reported. 2 vehicles blocking the left shoulder. I-10 eastbound approaching Dallas. El Paso police at the scene of a crash southbound Global Reach at Montana Avenue, and the backup is over a half hour long. Slow traffic on the 54 South, McCombs down to Kenworthy. It's a 5-minute delay. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. It looks like a pretty nice day for our Friday. A little cooler tomorrow morning. Lows most areas down into the 40s, and you want a jacket early for your Friday afternoon. Upper 70s to lower 80s. A little breezy at times. As we look ahead to the weekend, not too bad for your Saturday and Sunday. Looking warmer for your Saturday, back in the mid-80s, partly cloudy and breezy. Mid-80s also for your Sunday. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com, and I sell custom blinds designed for do-it-yourselfers. Unlike stock blinds offered at big box retailers, Blindster blinds are custom made for your windows and shipping is free. Don't hire an expensive pro. Do it yourself and save big at Blindster.com.
You know it's not okay? Prop K. It's not okay for taxpayers to lose billions in revenue. It's not okay for El Pasoans to lose thousands of jobs. And it's not okay to cause damage to our economy. On May 6th, let them know none of this is okay by voting no way on Prop K.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. At Blindster, we offer over 50 different custom window treatments, including faux wood blinds and shutters, all at prices less than retail. Plus, we'll send you free samples before you buy. Don't hire an expensive pro. Do it yourself and save big at Blindster.com.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Welcome back to Talk El Paso, airing on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. Continuing on this segment again with Matthew Gonzalez, Executive Director for the Southwest of the Consumer Energy Alliance. Thank you very much for sticking around with us today.
Yes, thank you. Thanks again.
Happy to talk about this because delving into these issues, we've had it's been probably one of the more dominant issues on our airwaves recently of people being concerned about and wanting to talk more about this issue, its potential impacts, their perspectives on it. So part of the conversation, at the very least with some of the ads that have again begun running and again may end up running adjacent to this. We do not make those that traffic decisions when it comes to when those ads are going to play. So we'll see what happens when we actually air this today. But fact of the matter is that one of the major points that's being put forth is about the nature both of this item and of the opposition to it, Proposition K, that is, and about how it essentially came about. So taking a step back from that for a second here, you mentioned that particularly with the Consumer Energy Alliance that you have various different members, mentioning last segment that you do have solar and wind generation energy partners. How in general do you describe the makeup of the organization, and again, the real focus that you all have whenever it comes to, well, energy and consumers?
Yeah, so the membership for the Consumer Energy Alliance is truly a cross-section of the American economy. So, certainly we've got solar companies, we've got wind companies, we've got oil and gas companies, but we also have, and by our charter, 70% of our members have to be non-energy producing companies, or non-energy producing members. So we've got groups like Airlines for America, Caterpillar, Virginia Manufacturers. We've got a number of members across the country from a bunch of different facets of industry. So small barber shops, and really my forte is small business. I feel like small business is really the backbone of the American economy. So I always love focusing on going after those small members who often don't have a voice. Certainly we've got chambers of commerce who are members and trade associations, but really some of my favorite members are those small businesses, the barber shop down the street, or the local insurance agent. Those are the people that we take such great pride in representing, because it makes them part of the energy conversation, and oftentimes people aren't equipped to have that conversation or even be a part of the energy conversation, yet it impacts every one of our lives. And so we represent those groups, and again, a large 70% of our membership are non-energy producing companies. They're everyday businesses.
So when it comes to the way that this is then supported, y'all's funding sources, does it come directly from your members, or how do you end up describing that?
So we do have funding that comes from members, but we can also, so depending on an issue, we can also work, like we'll run campaigns on different issues around the country. It kind of depends on what pops up. We work on campaigns, like I've done stuff in Colorado around solar campaigns and solar initiatives. The one thing that you find is it doesn't matter where you live, there are going to be people in that community that don't want energy projects. And so what we do is we go in and we try to educate people on why energy projects are important. We talk about the importance of having conversations, and I think that's a big thing that was missed with Proposition K, is that there was no conversation or input from the general public. And so we're very big on that. Like, whatever a community decides is ultimately their decision, but it should be consulted. The people who have a say in that should be everyday community members. And that's what's so, concerning about this proposition, is that it came out of a group out of Austin, which, nothing against Austin, but, why wasn't it written by people in El Paso, with El Paso in mind, thinking about the diversity and thinking about, just this area. It was written by people who aren't from here, and sadly they didn't just do this here. They ran another type of measure in San Antonio. So it's not this climate charter. They're doing something else there, and you're seeing a lot more of that. You're seeing a lot of these big dollars coming from environmental groups like the Sierra Club, and they're funneling money into these communities, and they're pushing these agendas, and it ends up having it ends up being to the detriment of that community, and sadly it's one thing to take it to the U.S. Congress, or even take it to your state legislature, where they can debate over these issues and have these conversations. But what they're figuring out is it's easier to go into a town where you have a council and you have people who aren't necessarily equipped to deal with some of these measures, and they use intimidation and they use fear, and quite frankly, they mislead people into considering these types of measures. And so I think that if a lot of these facts had been out there early on, and you were sharing these with the people that signed the petition, I bet a lot of them probably wouldn't have signed it if they knew that it was going to be in tax increase. And I'd be willing to bet that was never once mentioned to people as they were signing that petition. So that's the part that's really concerning. It should be up to that local community to make a decision on what's best for them. And that's why we felt like we needed to get in this fight here. Let's vote down Prop K. If this is a conversation that the city of El Paso wants to have, take it before your city council. Those are the representatives that were elected by this citizenry to represent their values and their interests. And so that's where the conversation should be happening. It shouldn't be done through a ballot measure. And so that's why we're here fighting back against it.
Again, if you're just joining us, guest right now is Matthew Gonzalez, Executive Director for the Southwest with the Consumer Energy Alliance. Again, their perspective, their information, some of the things we are talking about them, and to find out more information in general about them as well, nowayprop.com. That's NOWAYPROP letter K.com. So when it comes to that, and that was some of those specific aspects, the out of town has been maybe one of the most referenced thing, particularly in what I've been seeing both online and some of the advertising going on around this, and particularly in the advertising aspect. There have been some estimates putting that the buys related to this have been in the approaching, if not over, six-figure mark so far. But when it comes to those, again, specific kind of back and forth accusations about the out-of-town nature on this, particularly when it comes to you all and your interest in putting and talking about this in town, I guess, how do you all address that, and why does this kind of come about and come down to this issue? Why focus on this one out of the other main national ones that do end up coming up?
Well, so this is an important one because when you look at, again, it comes back to the makeup of the community. You've got a lot of citizens in this community who just can't afford this. If Prop K is passed, they are not going to be able to afford any type of tax increase whatsoever. And the big thing, I pride myself on being an activist and being an environmentalist and going out there and fighting on behalf of people. And I hate it because you're seeing people who are using those same terms, calling themselves activists or calling themselves environmentalists, and nothing could be further from the truth. I feel like there's a lot of misinformation that is going on, and if you wanted to have a real conversation, you wanted to do something that was going to be meaningful to the community, this is a conversation that would have been had at a city council level. So certainly understand that, and I don't try to misrepresent myself. I do not live in El Paso, but my daughter is growing up 40 miles down the road in Las Cruces. When we're here in the summers, we go shopping. We take we vacation down here. My daughter comes down here. We just did prom dress shopping. I mean, this is very much, a community that is near and dear to my heart and has been the entire time my daughter has been around. Her grandparents are in Anthony, Texas. So like my ties to this area, this area matters to me. And I get that, yes, I'm not from here. And I was even joking with, some of my friends down here because they were kind of giving me a hard time about it as well. They're like, why do you care so much? I care so much because I care about the future that we leave for our kids. My daughter has made it very clear she's going to be a UTEP minor when she goes to college. And so we're working really, really hard to so that we preserve that opportunity for her. I want her to be able to come here, and I don't want this place to be a ghost town because of some misguided activism out of Austin that lied to people and got them to vote on something that was to the detriment of the community. So totally understand why you want to hear from people, but I guess that's the fundamental difference between my organization and this organization, Ground Game, whatever they're called, Raise Your Taxes, is that they want to they want you to go and adopt something, and they haven't been forthcoming with information. We're here telling you that, if this is going to impact you, you should vote no. You should bring it back before the council. You should have that conversation, and the citizens should be a part of it. That's the fundamental difference in our approach versus theirs.
So when it comes to then that amount of action or what can or should happen when it comes to this, of course, Proposition K is on the ballot, again, with early voting, just as we often make the push for people to remember. Early voting beginning April 24th, so the next week after we are airing this interview. And then, of course, Election Day, Saturday, May 6th. With all that coming up, this is on the ballot. Changes are not possible here. So if there were to be, you've mentioned a couple different things, different factors that have already been in place, efforts underway by El Paso Electric, etc. When it comes to the goals that are talked about here and the ones that you say you are also very interested in, environmentalism, different impacts, the renewable energy that is more desirable in the general public, like you're referencing there, what would be the way in y'all's mind to go about this if it weren't, regardless of this current effort?
So I think it needs to be a community-led kind of effort, and that's honestly the best way that these measures happen. When you have community buy-in, when you visit with the people who this matters to, who it's going to impact, and you're able to share with them and without biasness on the information, but you provide it to them and then you leave it to them to make a decision that is best for them. That's the way it's supposed to work. And if you're not going to do it that way, at least kicking it to the city council to let them debate over this. I mean, again, that's part of why we put faith in our elected officials, is to go out there and represent us. And that's the beauty of local government versus state government or even federal government, is that these people, that you see them every day in your community. You see them at the grocery store. You see them at church. You see them at the basketball games or the soccer games on the weekends. Those people are accountable to you. And so I think that, you know, having this conversation at a local level, visiting with, doing town halls and talking about this is the best way to do it. And then at the end of the day, if the city of El Paso and the citizens of El Paso want to rethink this and say, you know what, this is a good idea and this is something that we want to do, then go down that path of trying to adopt it. But doing it through the charter, there's so many problems, and I could spend an hour pointing to things that, you know, this is not good. I mean, even some of like the issues with the proposition itself. There's a portion in there about severability. That if one portion of the act is not, you know, found to be constitutional or whatever legal, that, you know, you can just strip that portion out and the rest of it's going to function properly. Now, imagine, if you will, it's like your plumbing in your home. It's like saying, oh, I've used all this piping through my house, but now the construction industries division has come back and said we can't use red pipes, so we're going to just leave the blue pipes in, but the rest of it's going to work properly. We know that not to be the case, and it's not till after the fact, not till after it's adopted and it's on the books. Someone's going to find a way to exploit it and say, well, these two things don't work properly, and so here's a good reason to sue you. And that's the playbook. Sadly, that's the playbook of a lot of these environmental groups. I mean, you're talking about a multi-billion-dollar industry, and their whole playbook is let's put something on the books that is not enforceable, and then when that local government doesn't enforce it, we'll just turn around and sue them over it. And who does that come at the expense of? Taxpayers. And they're doing this across the country. And I mean, again, I could point to a number of places where this has already happened. So it's just sad to see it happen that way, because they're taking people for this money, and it's everyday working people that you know, again, can't afford it. So let's have that conversation locally. Let's make sure that there's local buy-in. Let's make sure that people feel good about it. And at that point, when you've done that part of it and you've done your due diligence, then adopt something like this if that's really what this community wants. But that's not how it was done, and that's the part that is so disheartening about it.
Again, if you've just been joining us, guest right now has been Matthew Gonzalez, Executive Director for the Southwest with the Consumer Energy Alliance. Again, that information, some of the things we've been talking about that from their perspective and about the Consumer Energy Alliance, nowayprop.com. That's again, NOWAYPROP, letter K, as in kite.com. So, Matthew, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us, lay out some of these issues, and, well, provide more information where people can find more about you all here today.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for the opportunity. And again, vote no way on Prop K on May 6th. And early voting is getting ready to start. So make sure you call your friends and family and let them know it's time to stand up for El Paso and its values.
Again, appreciate that. So we got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we're going to go ahead and open up those phone lines as we normally do. So if you want to get on that line, add your 2 cents. That number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. So we'll be talking about this and the other big news of the day. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 is slow with 10-minute delays through the downtown area from Franklin over to the 54 Patriot. That's after a minor accident reported. 2 vehicles blocking the left shoulder. I-10 eastbound approaching Dallas. El Paso police at the scene of a crash southbound Global Reach at Montana Avenue, and the backup is over a half hour long. Slow traffic on the 54 South, McCombs down to Kenworthy. It's a 5-minute delay. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Verdict with Ted Cruz Podcast.
I'm Ben Ferguson.
And I'm Ted Cruz. Corruption in Washington. A total of 9 Biden family members got millions of dollars from communist China.
Find out about all this and more on Verdict with Ted Cruz.
Download it now wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, let's force the city to buy the electric company for $8 billion.
It costs 8 times more than El Paso's budget.
Yeah.
Property taxes would skyrocket. That's an awful idea.
That's Prop K. And that's not all. Prop K shuts off water at some gas stations.
That's crazy. No bathrooms or water to stop a fire?
Small price to pay to stop pollution.
But the Environmental Protection Agency said most of El Paso's pollution comes from international sources, not us.
Let's pass it anyway.
even if it means raising everyone's electric bills and property taxes and cutting police and firefighters?
Now you get it.
This is the worst idea ever. Who wrote this?
My neighbors did.
How can you call yourself an El Pasoan?
I don't. I'm from Austin.
Austin wrote it. Only El Paso can stop it. On May 6th, vote no on Prop K, the worst idea in El Paso history. Political ad paid for by El Pasoans for Prosperity PAC.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso, weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM, brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., and let's talk El Paso.
Hurry and shop the final days of Springfest at Lowe's and get the best values of the season before they're gone. Save big on the Ego 15-inch string trimmer. It was $219. Now it's $199. Shop Lowe's today. Valid through 4/26. Selection varies by location, while supplies last.
Find dinner inspiration and stream BarbeQuest at beeflovingtexans.com.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. Alec Baldwin is commenting after manslaughter charges against him related to the on-set death while filming the movie Rust were dropped. On Instagram, the actor posted a photo of he and his wife with the words, "I owe everything I have to this woman." He also said, "And to you, Luke." Luke Nikas is one of his attorneys handling the case. The White House says House Speaker Kevin McCarthy's debt limit proposal would be a disaster.
Speaker McCarthy unveiled his plan to cut benefits for American veterans and take a 2x4 to America's manufacturing resurgence.
Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre told reporters Republicans will vote for a plan that kills manufacturing jobs and cuts benefits to veterans in their own states. McCarthy rolled out a bill to lift the debt ceiling by $1.5 trillion that contains a number of spending cuts. A decision on access to a commonly used abortion pill is expected to be handed down by the Supreme Court tomorrow. The ruling is set to come after the court extended a temporary stay on a Texas federal judge's ruling to halt production and distribution of mifepristone. The drug was originally approved by the FDA in 2000. Mortgage rates are rising for the first time in over a month. Lisa Taylor has more.
According to new data released by Freddie Mac on Thursday, a 30-year fixed mortgage rate went up to 6.39% this week. That's up from 6.27% last week. Freddie Mac's chief economist said the rising mortgage rates were due to shifting market expectations.
Florida officials say they've ended the contract with a firm that handles emergency alert messages. This after a test meant for TV and radio stations got sent to millions of cell phones early Thursday morning. Officials say they're investigating what is being called an unfortunate procedural error. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. The CDC is recommending a second dose of the updated COVID booster for seniors.
It comes after the FDA authorized the shot this week. People 65 and older can get another dose of the updated Pfizer, BioNTech, and Moderna vaccines at least 4 months after their last shot. The FDA says most people with weakened immune systems can get an additional dose at least 2 months after their last one. I'm Mark Mayfield.
BuzzFeed is shutting down its news division. That's according to CNN, which obtained a memo from BuzzFeed boss Jonah Peretti that was sent to staff making the announcement. In the memo, Peretti said, "Moving forward, we will have a single news brand in HuffPost." The BuzzFeed head added the company can no longer continue to fund BuzzFeed News as a standalone organization. The closure of the news division is part of BuzzFeed reducing its workforce by about 15%. If you're stressed out, a new study says you might need to turn to fish for help. It's called aquarium therapy. Bree Tennis explains.
The new study says just watching fish do their thing for as little as 10 minutes can reduce your heart rate and stress level by 3%. The National Marine Aquarium says their team found fish viewing also improves your mood and helps you sleep better. The longer you watch, the better you feel. Have an aquarium at the office? It boosts morale and productivity, also redirects negative feelings. The National Pet Owners Survey says there are about 13 million aquariums in American homes. They're the third most popular pet after dogs and cats.
McDonald's is changing up its Big Macs by adding more sauce, and now you can get even more. The fast food giant announced this week that for a limited time, customers will be able to get the Big Mac sauce in a dip cup. In a bid to promote its staple items, McDonald's is working on building up hype around the product without making large-scale changes. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now, your chance to win $1,000. Enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Bills. That's bills. Enter it now.
This report is sponsored by Verdict with Ted Cruz Podcast.
I'm Ben Ferguson.
And I'm Ted Cruz. Corruption in Washington. A total of 9 Biden family members got millions of dollars from communist China.
Find out about all this and more on Verdict with Ted Cruz.
Download it now wherever you get your podcasts.
No, not now. That sounds like it's going to cost you.
I know what to do. I'm going to cashnetusa.com. I can apply in minutes, get an instant decision, and if approved, I could have the money in my account as soon as the same business day.
When you need money fast, be the hero. Go to cashnetusa.com to apply for the money you need now. The exact timing as to when your loan funds will be available will be determined by your banking institution.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager of Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Thank you again, El Paso, for making us #1 in new Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram sales in March. While other dealers continue to sell their vehicles for over MSRP, we continue to have the best prices in town.
Get huge savings on hundreds of new and certified pre-owned vehicles during Ram Truck Month at Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Right now, get $5,000 off MSRP on 2023 Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab, plus super low 4.9% APR for 72 months. Get $5,500 off MSRP on 2023 Jeep Gladiator Sport and $6,000 off MSRP on 2023 Dodge Durango SUVs. Worried about your trade or credit? Our lenders will push to approve your credit, even if your credit is less than perfect. Or if you owe more than your trade is worth. Trade and upgrade for less. At Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. At I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina, El Paso. El Paso Strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus DTNL. 4.9% APR, 1606 per thousand finance. On select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
Result of negotiations not guaranteed. Not available in all states. Approximate discounts of up to half before fees based on an average enrolled debt and results.
If your credit card debt is out of control, if you're in over your head in monthly payments, there's a secret the credit card companies don't want you to know. If you have more than $10,000 in credit card debt, you have the right to let us settle that debt for a fraction of what you owe. That's bad news for the credit card companies, but it's great news for you. We're Credit Associates, and we're offering you free information on how to completely resolve your credit card debt with a monthly payment you can afford. To see how much you could save, call now. 800-500-6135. Don't declare bankruptcy. Don't consolidate. Give us 10 minutes and we could save you thousands and offer a guarantee, so there's no risk to call now. 800-500-6135. For the secret the credit card companies don't want you to know, call Credit Associates for free now and see how much money you could save. Call 800-500-6135. 800-500-6135.
Pray.com's Meditative Prayers podcast is the best way to bring God's perfect peace into your night. Each meditative prayer helps you focus on God, fight anxiety, sleep better, and more.
As you close your eyes, ask God to come and have fellowship with you. Open yourself to the Holy Spirit and ask Him to minister to you.
Listen to Meditative Prayers on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, more or less the main one, but also find us over on the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. However you want to get at us, add your 2 cents. A lot of people doing so over the course of the last hour, but explicitly in the interview as well, including those dropping those likes and reacts that we always appreciate, including Alex Campos, Matt Olson, Richard Janicek, Coronado Lodge 1406. I missed that one go by, but also John Browson and Marky Mandingo, RJ, Ida Beza Gardner, Flaco Jimenez, Robbie Flores, and Monica Cervantes. Do appreciate it because, well, it helps with all those algorithmic things and keeps our dual missions of having live local talk radio in the borderland and talking about the things that affect us right here at home. Well, keeps it alive. So delving into that a lot as we did this last hour, again, thanks to Matt with the Consumer Energy Alliance, and a lot of conversation happening and people breaking down, responding to part of that, including one a little bit too long to display on screen from Richard Lewis saying that a good interview, see what he advocates. I did a quick search, not a quick search, and I would like to know about the following excerpt I looked up regarding his group on there. Not sure what source you're looking at because, again, it's a little bit too long of a comment for us to pop up on screen, but about some of the sourcing specifically of it about, well, I think basically another one said it there. Relaxed Sun over on the Twitch stream. There we go. Saying CEA receives funding backing from petroleum giants with its member groups, including BP, ExxonMobil, Shell, Chevron, among many others. So some of those conversations, among other things. And so that's, it would be always interesting to know sourcing and things like that, like Ion Grimm is saying, among other things. But we also got those phone lines open right now. Open if full at the moment, as I kind of expected coming out of an interview like that. If you want to get on the line, keep that number handy. And as a hint, when one call ends, another one opens. Yeah, I know that sounds like one of those truisms, but it's just accurate in those cases. Just keep that number handy, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Ben on the line with us here right now. Ben, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. I've listened to online conversations and conferences among members of the Sunrise El Paso group. You can listen to them too. All you got to do is put in their Sunrise El Paso group and you can listen to these things. And this is really scary. In these conversations, the members said that they are counting on the historically low voter turnout for elections on off election years in El Paso. They figure if they can just get a higher percentage of voters that voted for getting this on the ballot in November to vote, then voted against it, they can get this passed. This group has done their homework, and they're an outside management group and have targeted our city because of our low turnout voting history. Hopefully, they will not be right in their calculations. I mean, the passage of Proposition K could affect the lives of everyone in El Paso and the surrounding areas depending on El Paso Electric. So be sure to talk to everybody you know to get out and vote against Proposition K. This is not something for people to stay home for. Okay, you need to vote against this thing. Otherwise, there's going to be a lot of people are going to be really affected and affected negatively because of what's going on right now.
I will certainly agree with you on the fact that people need to go out and vote on this. And I would even say, even from the supporters on the side of this, I wouldn't think that it would be a good thing to want to have this anywhere near the idea of, snuck by while no one was paying attention kind of thing, because ultimately, I think it would affect the legitimacy of the people what they are feeling affected by this, saying that, oh, well, you should have got out to vote. That doesn't do a whole lot to assuage people that may feel very unhappy about that in the future, potentially, as people, I mean, sure, I'm going to agree that, yeah, they should have been paying attention, but if that's their wake-up moment, I wouldn't, if I was a firm proponent behind this, part of the group that was promoting this is not the way I would want to go about this. I would want this known everywhere and have people not just like, well, we managed to squeak it by, but vociferously support it. That would be the way I would be going about this, I have to say.
Unfortunately, I think they've got it right. Is that they had 40,000 people that went out and voted for this thing in November. If they can get 10% of those people just out to vote for it, they may be able to get this thing passed. If nobody else does their homework and goes out and talks to people and spreads the word, because I've talked to a lot of people that don't even know Proposition K exists. And those are well-read people that I've I've talked with, people that read the El Paso Times all the time and everything else. They don't even know that Proposition K exists and what it's about and how it's going to affect us. So don't assume that that these people, that all the people against Proposition K are going to come out and vote, because a lot of these people don't even know about it. And there's a lot of people, a lot of young people that wake up every morning and think they're going to burn up the next day because of climate change, that they will go out and vote for this thing. And they're not the ones that are going to have to pay the taxes and all the negative influences of this proposition being passed. So be sure, everybody, talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends, make a call on your on the telephone, go next door and talk with these people and get them out to vote against this thing.
I mean, again, if you feel strongly about this in any way, I would certainly encourage people to, get this going, get it. I mean, again, the way I put it simply, make your plan to vote. And I mean, always, but particularly these days, it feels like it should also include those that you agree with you. I'm not going to say to do a Pyrrhic moment and say, take everyone, regardless if they agree with you or not. I mean, take the people that are in support of your positions along with you, but just take them, like make that plan, make a party out of it if you need to, but people need to be involved in these things, regardless of the importance of this issue that we certainly have this time around, because again, Proposition K taking up all the oxygen in the room, absolutely, but there are the major school districts in our area have items on here. We got municipalities. This is a stacked election. So I mean, again, if you feel strongly about this or anything else on there, please go out to the polls. I will firmly agree with that all the time.
Okay, El Paso Fighting, and remember El Paso Fighting Hunger Food Bank Challenge.
Absolutely.
You've got until April 30th to get the $250,000 match. So please go, give as much as you can there. And let's go, Brandon. Stay well, stay safe. God bless. And again, I'll disagree with you because I don't want anybody to go out and vote for Proposition K.
Yep.
Thank you.
Fair enough. And you're entitled to your position there, but I do appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
Thank you.
I mean, I want there to be more voting in El Paso. I am not shy about saying that, never have been, and don't think I ever will be until it stops becoming an issue. I don't foresee in my lifetime, without just other monumentous and massive events happening, being like, yeah, you don't really need to bother voting. That's how you know I'm an imposter kind of thing. That's the BA. Please do not go vote. You do not need to vote. It is all taken care of. That's how you know that's not me and I've been replaced. Body snatchers, robot, chat, GPT, whatever. Anyway, let's go ahead and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll talk more about these things going on. And yeah, please be sure to visit elpasoansfightinghunger.org to get that grant match. We're going to be talking more about that a little bit later next week. So stay tuned for that as well. But in any case, taking that break right now, don't forget that phone number, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Eastbound Artcraft at South Desert Boulevard, an injury accidents blocking two left lanes and causing heavy delays affecting the I-10 eastbound from Northern Pass all the way down to almost Mesa Street with about 15-minute delays. 40-minute delays on Global Reach southbound from the Spur down to Montana after an accident. Southbound on Memorial Highway on the loop at Edgemere, an accident there is blocking the left lane. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Bank of America. Bank of America has powerful digital solutions for local and global businesses, so you can make every move matter. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. Bank of America, N.A. Copyright 2023.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager of Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Thank you again, El Paso, for making us #1 in new Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram sales in March. While other dealers continue to sell their vehicles for over MSRP, we continue to have the best prices in town.
Get huge savings on hundreds of new and certified pre-owned vehicles during Ram Truck Month at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Right now, get $5,000 off MSRP on 2023 Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab, plus super low 4.9% APR for 72 months. Get Get $5,500 off MSRP on 2023 Jeep Gladiator Sport and $6,000 off MSRP on 2023 Dodge Durango SUVs. Worried about your trade or credit? Our lenders will push to approve your credit, even if your credit is less than perfect. Or if you owe more than your trade is worth. Trade and upgrade for less at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat at I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina, El Paso. El Paso Strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus DTNL. 4.9% APR, 1606 per thousand finance. On select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
I'm Martin Hoke, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I love Navage. I've told you about how your nose is the body's air filter, that Navage's powered suction will help flush out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs, and that Navage will help you breathe better. But what do other people say about Navage? Like Haley, quote, Navage is the best thing I bought. I love it. My nose feels so clear now and I can breathe. I've been struggling with a stuffy nose for weeks. I bought Navage and it's amazing. Or this one. I use Navage every night, could not imagine life without it. I have 5 cats, and before I found Navage, I was a clogged mess. Now I breathe so much better, unquote. Those are 2 of over 100,000 online reviews praising Navage, the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million people to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Target, Rite Aid, and online. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E, clean nose, healthy life.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-838-4715 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-838-4715. That's 800-838-4715. What do you have to lose? Call 800-838-4715. Again, 800-838-4715.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv. Andrew J. Polk. A lot of conversations, a lot of things, stuff, discussions, other various aspects going on today, but we also got a lot of stuff that is being discussed here, and including some of the different ways that items, Proposition K specifically, is getting promoted out there. We've also obviously got stuff going on air, even outside of our interviews. There's a lot of ad buys going on, and I've started seeing yard signs. That's one. I got the picture around here somewhere. The billboard truck. There we go. That percolating around town, among other things. So you can see that for yourself if you check it out. But beyond that, there's also, well, let's just say they're not necessarily complementary efforts or the same type of efforts when I'm coming to the differences that I am seeing, what's coming up to my notice anyway, which is by no means exhaustive. So if you have different experiences out there, I'd love to hear from it about the different sides and the different ways it's getting promoted when it comes to Proposition K. Specifically, that, a lot of like media advertising, that billboard truck and other stuff like that for the kind of end yard signs for the anti-Prop K stuff, and kind of what Ed Clore is saying here. Almost every day I get a vote no on Prop K mailer, see mainly vote no yard signs and street signs, but a few vote for. I haven't seen the vote for ones yet, but again, I'm not doing like explicit canvassing. I got the staff. The staff is me to go and do like exhaustive reviews. So haven't come across one myself yet. I've only seen one vote against sign as it is, but again, that's just kind of in passing, the one that I've actually noticed. But what I will say is this, that while that's the type of campaign and the messaging that is coming primarily for the the for the against campaign. The for campaign, the vote for Prop K, seems to be focused primarily online and in like direct outreach to potentials. Like, I haven't got this text myself, but friends and family I know have, of essentially getting a text saying, thank you for pledging to vote for Proposition K. Here's all the voting information you need. Thank you for pledging to vote, and make sure you go on Election Day. Something to that effect. And so it's primarily social media. So that's just kind of the different aspects I've been seeing it go through. So again, feel like in a lot of other conversations going on, like Bernadette and Nicole, basically very happy about the day and the date that it is today. Yeah, I hope you're having fun with it. James Radcliffe with one other question, say, what are the restrictions with campaign funds being used for these nonprofits? We've kind of delved into that a while ago, that there is a way for particularly like campaigns that are winding down, if there's leftover funds in it, they can donate it to like nonprofits or to PACs and stuff like that. I'm not 100% on those rules because, yeah, I may be able to play one on TV, but I'm definitely not an attorney and certainly not pretending to be a member of the bar. No one in that position come after me for that. But there are methods that, again, campaign funds can be given directly to other causes and stuff like that. So I'll just put it that way. Anyway, let's go back to the phone lines right now. Again, that number to call, full at the moment, but just keep it handy, 915-544-5876-544-KTSM. Along as Marky Mandingo saying we will move to Rio Rancho if this passes. Hope you'll be able to stay in town regardless. But let's get back to those phone lines. We do have Frankie in to see us. Speaking of New Mexico, on the line with us right now. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
When I go off the phone with you last night, I had an extra shot of my very fine Irish whiskey, and it happened. I got an epiphany. It came over me like a midsummer night's dream. Now, bear with me on this. The whole situation, the May the 6th coming up,
Sure.
the overall circumstance is just general voter apathy. Now, how are we going to get away with that to avoid the apathy aspect, or reduce it, I should say? Now, bear with me. I just had this epiphany, this revelation. Okay, you got 2 weeks, a little bit over 2 weeks. You got enough time. All the people that are interested in wanting this to pass, or you want to throw in the people that are against it, you've got enough time to put together town halls. Now, in the north, the northeast, out toward Horizon City, to the west, and so forth. I don't know where you got along the southern border. But here's my suggestion, right? Because if you go out there and talk all you want, as you well do, and do it very finely, the average person is going to, I don't care, it's all this nonsense. But you got to give these voters a little bit of something extra than their own self-motivation. And so here's where I'm coming with this. You put together town halls, one in the morning, one in the afternoon for each of those sections of El Paso, and you provide the hook, if you will, a burrito, a bean and cheese burrito in the morning, maybe a chimichanga in the afternoon, right? And you get out there and you say on the platform while they're eating, this is what we're doing. Now, what do you think of that?
It's an interesting concept. I'm not going to say that's been done exactly as according to your plan, but I do know, besides our platform, particularly with the pro Prop K people, but even those against, there's been a lot of community forums, like individual meetings of, say, city reps and regional areas, different sections of town, in which there have been meetings going on. I've been by no means aware of all of them, particularly before they happen, so we haven't been like exhaustive mentioning it here, because also I feel like that's maybe preaching to the choir about people who are already involved and understanding, or at the very least engaged on these issues. But yeah, I will say that the outreach on this from, frankly, both sides of this issue has been pretty significant. We often talk about the high level stuff because that's what reaches our notice, ends up delving into the issues, is just our focus. But I will say, I feel like this one has been more into, but it might still be the kind of issue you're talking about here, where it has already activated people who are already going out to these kind of meetings. I don't know if anyone's offering, what's the old South Park line, punch and pie along with it in order to get the people to come out to it.
Well, wait a minute. You're not trying to do some hanky-panky, underhanded stuff.
Sure.
Some overall influence. You're providing something for people to have, hold in their hand while they're listening. I don't see anything wrong with that. Now, Marco Mandingo, I saw on your Facebook page saying he's thinking 11%. I'm thinking if you would implement or think through the suggestion that I had, you could probably increase 3 to 4% over that 11%. That's all I'm saying. You need to get the people to come out. Again, apathy. They're not going to come out on their own volition. Come on, you know that. Oh, I don't want to go. Somebody else will vote for me. All this other kind of stupid nonsense. But that's what I would think if they get out there and hear the pros and the cons at a town hall while they're eating that bean and cheese burrito or chimichanga, the beef or chicken. I don't care. The point is, they're there. At least it gives an extra leg up when it comes to the vote on May the 6th. That's my point.
No, I get what you're saying. Basically, what I'm saying is that I'm aware of people doing more outreach, but maybe not in that specific kind of. I'm not going to say that it's underhanded, but it definitely does feel like a little bit of carrot and stick method going on with it. I will put it that way.
Well, okay, yes, for sure, it is a carrot and stick. Yeah, but that's what you have to do in these modern circumstances today. People just will not get off their duff and do what we have here in the United States, your right to vote. They need to get kicked in the butt to get out there. And I'm just throwing that out. That's all I'm saying. And it would work, Andrew. It would. You would get 2, 3, 4% extra over the 11% that you, Marco, and everybody else is thinking. If you'd hoped you would get that in May the 6th. That's my point.
No, I frankly would agree with you that may have. I mean, there's been tons of examples of organizing political party, even specifically efforts over the generations that have focused them around, basic sustenance. I don't know if it would be as effective as it used to be, but it does kind of feel like if something doesn't go viral, if something doesn't immediately have that moment where everyone's like, oh man, we have to share this right now, that it kind of goes under the radar. Not everything ends up going viral, nor frankly should it. And just being concerned about things. I mean, the whole idea of civic duty ending up being wrapped up into this is also another conversation entirely. But frankly, I would support someone who wanted to have that kind of an effort put together. Yeah, like a forum, town hall, whatever, and then add in that and provisions will be provided or something like that. But yeah, I think it would be a good idea. I don't know if anyone's doing that kind of effort, but and if they're going to take this idea right now, I'd love to see them throw it together before. I don't know if before early voting, considering that's Monday, but maybe before Election Day. It's possible, if not feeling totally likely.
Okay, final point.
Sure.
Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Give it a shot. I mean, if it works, whoopee-doo. If it doesn't, okay, that's the way it is. But at least give it a shot. That's all I'm saying. And you have a great day.
Yeah, you too as well. Appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
Okay, Andrew.
All right. And with that, we're going to think we lost another caller on the line there. So if you're calling in and you want to make a point here, just stay on the line with us and we'll get to you in short order. But I guess we'll just take that break right now, come back and see where we are on the lines. That number to call, again, 915-544-5876. Just had a call drop off. So again, just remember to stay there. Anyway, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update. A school counselor in Las Cruces reportedly called authorities after a younger student missed 28 days of school, and what authorities say they found appears nothing short of nightmarish. As a result, a man and woman, both age 29, are both behind bars, arrested after the woman's children reportedly tested positive for drugs. Officers arrested Teresa Mary Bagley and Fernando Loya of Las Cruces yesterday. The school staff tried to visit Bagley's home, but she refused to let them in, according to documents. The school staff also reported the school-aged child had shown up to school with dirty clothes. Authorities reported that the living conditions were almost unlivable, describing the home as a hoarder status and describing how they were met with the smell of urine and had to hold onto the walls to step over things. Bagley was charged in 2017 with possession of a controlled substance after she was charged with child abuse in 2016 and placed on 3 years probation. I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
An earlier injury accident on eastbound Artcraft at South Desert Boulevard is blocking 2 left lanes and causing a backup on the I-10. Global Reach is slow southbound from Liberty Expressway down to Montana after an accident, half-hour delays. I-10 westbound at the Patriot, a minor accident has a couple of vehicles on the right shoulder. Earlier crash on Memorial Highway southbound at Edgemere is cleared, and I-10 is slow. Franklin to the Patriots, a 7-minute delay. Kerry Edwards, El Paso, traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. It looks like a pretty nice day for our Friday. A little cooler tomorrow morning. Lows most areas down into the 40s. You may want a jacket early for your Friday afternoon. Upper 70s to lower 80s. A little breezy at times. As we look ahead to the weekend, not too bad for your Saturday and Sunday. Looking warmer for your Saturday, back in the mid-80s, partly cloudy and breezy. Mid-80s also for your Sunday. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's Biggie Bag. When you think Wendy's Biggie Bag, think your go-to meal deal with your choice of JBC, double stack or crispy chicken sandwich, plus 4-piece nugs, junior fries, and a small soft drink. Biggie hits every time. So grab a Biggie Bag today. U.S. price and participation may vary. Third-party delivery pricing may be higher.
Help DEA keep our communities safe and healthy by participating in National Prescription Drug Takeback Day, April 22nd. Find a collection site near you at DEATakeback.com. Do your part to lower overdose deaths and prevent drug misuse before it starts.
I'm Martin Hoke, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I love Navage. I've told you about how your nose is the body's air filter, that Navage's powered suction will help flush out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs, and that Navage will help you breathe better. But what do other people say about Navage? Like Haley, quote, Navage is the best thing I bought. I love it. My nose feels so clear now and I can breathe. I've been struggling with a stuffy nose for weeks. I bought Navage and it's amazing. Or this one. I use Navage every night, could not imagine life without it. I have 5 cats, and before I found Navage, I was a clogged mess. Now I breathe so much better, unquote. Those are 2 of over 100,000 online reviews praising Navage, the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million people to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Target, Rite Aid, and online. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E, clean nose, healthy life.
Staples is celebrating Earth Day. On April 23rd and 24th, save 15% on your purchase of $30 when you recycle tech at Staples. Offer valid 4/22 and 4/23 only. Limit 1 reward per month. Exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/recycling for details. Cut the cord with your old tech and recycle it at Staples. This report is sponsored by Staples Stores.
There won't be much substance on your news feed until you add us. Just like us or click on the link at kcsmradio.com. News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, more or less the main one, where most of the comments come in, including some like Ion Grimm trading Mark Mandingo for if his plan is to move away from here, if Prop K passes to move to Mexico, the deep blue state. Okay, I mean, I won't dispute the current leadership of New Mexico, but I've always felt like New Mexico was a weird mixed bag whenever it comes to individual positions. I mean, let's be honest, the Southern District of New Mexico, the 2nd Congressional District, has been one of those flip-flop seats. So I get what you're saying. And it certainly has had a reflection of that in current legislation, and among other things, that whole blue aesthetic. But I don't feel like it's one of those. It's not Illinois. You used to live in Illinois, and this feels very different from that. Let me just put it that way. Anyway, other comments coming in, including a Fred Marquez saying that a friendly reminder that marijuana destroys your nervous system over time. It may take 10, 20, 30 years, but I guarantee it will destroy your nervous system. I mean, there is reasons to not smoke things in general. I'll certainly agree with you there. And why, even where it is legalized, besides the whole the fact that there is still testing for federally illegal substances, and any of the positions that I've held that I can recall that even being mentioned in like the HR manual. But also, I mean, just smoking's bad for y'all, kind of like period. Doesn't matter how you're doing it. They're like, yeah, there are edibles and other stuff and ways to do that right now. But let's be honest, the herb itself, so to speak, is still very persuasive. So, I mean, that's one of the beauties of having a substance be voluntary use. You don't have to, but I think educating people on parts of it is still pretty important. Marky Mandingo pointing out that, in response to Ion Graham, that Rio Rancho, Sandoval County, and is very red. I just feel like I've had more interesting conversations with some people from New Mexico when it comes to, well, just different outside of the usual partisan divides that are still very much politically involved. Let me just put it that way. Than I've had with a lot of other people. New Mexico is a weird place, y'all. Pretty easy to get further out of the well-developed areas. Anyway, a lot of other comments coming in. We'll keep checking in on some of those, but let's back to the phone lines now. Again, if you want to squeeze in before the end of the show, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Raul in the Northeastern line with us here right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. I was reading that the Consumer Energy Alliance is an industry front group, and they were established to influence public perception and government regulation in favor of, obviously, the fossil fuel industries. The energy plutocrats, we love those guys, pollute the world, but we got to have them. You got to have them. Now, this Consumer Energy Alliance specializes in coordinating what they characterize as astroturfing efforts that are frequently funded by oil and gas interests like the Koch brothers, talk about plutocrats and polluters. Now, I've got another ad now. Somebody's spending quite a bit of money for this. This is a fourth flyer. It's 8x5, all color, really, really nice. This is expensive stuff, let me tell you. And it says, what is the worst idea ever? And then it has a photo of the Hindenburg, 1937, the Hindenburg. Then 1972, Ford Pinto. And then it says Proposition K. The worst idea ever? Well, I don't think so. I think 2016, the election of Donald Trump, worst idea ever. Now, on the doings of America's well-regulated militia. So this black kid was shot in the head for mistakenly ringing the doorbell at the wrong house by an 84-year-old white snowflake. And unfortunately for this teenage girl, she and her girlfriends mistakenly drove into the wrong driveway. So a 65-year-old white man, impulse shooter, snowflake, shoots her dead. Now, the grandson of this Ralph Yarl, the shooter, the black kid that got shot, says that his grandpa was into weird, random, racist things. Ralph Yarl is a 16-year-old kid that was shot twice by the scared old Trumper when Yarl rang the wrong doorbell trying to pick up his little brothers. Now, the scared old right-winger, this guy named Andrew Lester, he pleads not guilty to the shooting. I don't know how that is. You shoot somebody there at your house and you're not guilty. And his grandson's name is Clint Ludwig, and he said he spoke to Don Lemon of CNN the other day, and he said that fear and paranoia is what his grandfather had bought into, including conspiracies and disinformation. And the scared old Trumper's grandson, Ludwig, said that in the last 5 or 6 years, his abuelito had become a staunch right-winger, falling further down the right-wing rabbit hole as far as doing the election denying conspiracy stuff and the COVID conspiracies and disinformation, and fully buying into Fox News, OAN's kind of line. He said, I feel like it's really further radicalized him in lots of ways. He said that his grandfather had been immersed in a 24-hour news cycle of fear and paranoia. And then with the NRA pushing the stand your ground stuff and that you have to defend your home, he says that when he heard about the shooting, he said that he didn't disbelieve it, that it was true. He said the second he heard it, he said, I could see him doing that. So this is how crazy America has gotten. See, now, I know you guys don't want to blame it on the guns. It's the nutties with the guns. So if it's the guys that are the nuts, then why do you want to have them have guns?
The simple answer would be we don't. We don't want them to have guns. But again, anything that's been brought up to me anyway, when it comes to legislation on this, which seems to be what you're getting closer to, on the idea of how do you stop this from happening. I mean, it's like kind of like with any other crime. I mean, how do you stop it from happening? It's frankly a misunderstanding of how law enforcement works to say that it's crime prevention. I mean, there's more active ways to do it. You enforce some things that already exist, such as, the laws that are already on the books. But to try and say that, well, I mean, you were start talking about like pre-crime division type of stuff. You're about to stop this person who was otherwise a law-abiding person before he then got involved in this. And also, let's put it this way, you brought up the allusion to the whole well-regulated militia coming along with this. I don't think anyone would reasonably believe that this is a representation of that part of it, but is what you're trying to get at here, that because these incidents, these people did something that I would also disagree with, that therefore everyone else should also be disenfranchised from these rights of the same way that they have used them?
Andrew, you don't have to say what I said. I'm very capable of expressing myself clearly, concisely. So if you're saying, if you're saying this and that, no, if I was saying this and that, I would be saying it. I say exactly what I want to say. So that is that straw man thing that Eric accuses you. You do that on me regularly. If you're saying this or that and you just want to put this guy down, no.
Okay, then let's make it clear. I'm asking you a question is the way it actually came to. With the stuff that you're talking about, are you saying, so this is the question, this is not me quoting you, this is me asking you a question, that you would therefore like to see other people disenfranchised because of these people doing bad acts?
I would like to see a law that, first of all, like when you go out, want to learn how to drive a car, you got to get, you got to take some lessons.
Mm-hmm.
You got to make sure that you can do the job, maybe that you're not blind or something like that, I would want to see certain weapons, like assault weapons. We don't need to have them. That doesn't need to be out there. I don't want them manufactured anymore. And anybody who already owns one, you can't sell it to anybody except Uncle Sam or somebody, if we go through a very, a detailed process, who's been cleared of, being able to buy that gun. But we don't need to have those kinds of guns out there. There's lots of things that could be done, but they're not done by the Republican Party because they are in the pockets of the arms manufacturers, of the gun industry. So this is a new normal. This is where we're at now. Am I next? Is what I got to think about, and that is so sad. I grew up during the Cuban Missile Crisis and practicing for World War III. But these kids, now we have a generation of kids that practice for gun shooters. That's where America is. That's the America that Trump didn't make great again.
Okay, and your position on the former president is not at all unfamiliar to longtime listeners or even short-time listeners of this program, which is definitely getting into Friday territory. But let me just say, as much as I appreciate the local commentary, the local issues and those aspects of it, even if we got pretty immediately far afield from that on this here, I'm going to talk about what you're talking about. If you want to have a conversation, it often involves me responding to what you're saying. So you're saying that me responding to you is straw manning. I guess I don't understand how you understand conversation. Let's just put it that way. But on the idea of when it comes down to rights, because let's make no mistake, we're not talking about, oh, well, do you really need this? Because it is a right. And also, this goes a whole lot of ways. Just because it's not even explicitly limited in the Constitution or listed in the Constitution doesn't mean that it's not still a right. Those are simply the ones that are enumerated because of the specific level of concern that came up upon them. So I would agree with you that the people in the incidents that you just mentioned were, well, not knowing the intimate details of their case, doesn't sound like it's going to be a good case for them. And I, again, not going to try to say if they should have pled guilty or not, or what the status of like the stand your ground laws is in those areas. The fact of the matter is that knowing your target, I mean, there's the 3 or 4, depending on how you slice it, rules of gun safety. Keep your finger off your trigger, treat every firearm like it's loaded, know what's your target and what's beyond it, and do not point a firearm at anything you do not intend to destroy are all important things. Because, I mean, there's conversations that happen online about people saying, no, I don't need a light on the weapon. I don't need to turn on lights. They'll give away my position. I'm just going to blast away at the darkness. That's a good way to get someone near and dear to you targeted by the cordless hole puncher. So this is, I mean, I fully advocate having more training, having more people knowing what they're doing, because much like owning a car, owning a firearm imparts literally no knowledge or efficiency or capability with operating the machinery that we're talking about. And yet you got to admit, and you know this, and I know you know this to be true, that there's going to be maybe a different level of regulation when it comes to guns versus cars, even if I would even be willing to accept the total, like, exact same types of regulations when it comes to either, including the types that you're able to own, the capacity of them. We don't see things on like gas tanks and stuff like that. The parallels, and it's often brought up as, we do this with that, and yet it's not exactly an apples to apples comparison. If we were to make it apples to apples, I think it would be more interesting that way. And frankly, I'd find myself in favor of it. But if you're going to say that, then nothing else will happen, that's ignoring a whole lot of statements that are being made, both by elected officials as well as in general areas that I follow when it comes to these issues online and then we'll kind of make it increasingly difficult to do so. And that would definitely be a feature. I know that to be true. So I tell you what, thank you for the point in the call. I'll tell you what, we had one more call come in. And again, as always been the case, if you're calling in the midst of a segment, might get popped up line. So we got time for one more quick call on the line right now. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
Hey, Andrew, this is in Otero County, New Mexico.
Yeah, hey there. What's on your mind?
Hey, I got good news for Comrade Raul.
Mm-hmm.
The Koch brothers, one of them succumbed to old age about 4 years ago.
Yeah, sure.
And the other one, I believe, is on life support in an old folks' home.
Oh, really? Okay.
Just bringing them up to speed. Have a good day.
Fair enough. Well, thanks for the point in the call. You have a good one there, too. I will say I don't pay much attention to individuals involved in the campaign financing. I know that there are some that do. It's not my bag, but I do know that the Koch brothers was reduced to one in recent-ish years. So if one's also circling the drain, well, that's news to me, but I guess not surprised they weren't getting any younger. But I guess to say the point of the idea, for me, a lot of what the conversation ends up coming down to when we talk about funding sources, maybe not the who supports what parts of industry support organizations. Those are absolutely legitimate questions. But when it comes down to, this one person is supporting this issue, therefore, I feel like a lot of it comes down to the idea of, and therefore, if this one person were no longer doing that, it wouldn't be an issue. It would go away. Sure, there are methods like astroturfing, trying to make it seem like something is happening, homegrown, rising up from the roots, as it were, and it's really not being doing so. It's being laid down from the top. That can be a concern, but it often seems like the supposition that comes down along with it is that, and therefore, if we can just get rid of this one guy, one person group, get rid of their influence, it'll all be solved, which is still not engaging with the issue, which is still the way I'm going to constantly come back on this of, if you're not talking about the issues and you're merely talking about the way it's achieved, the parts of it, who's involved in it and why their involvement makes you like them less or whatever the heck it is, talk about the issues. That's what it always comes down to for me, and that's what it's always going to come down to as long as I'm in charge of this show anyway, which I have no plans on changing anytime soon. So there's that. And anyway, we got to take that next break now. So coming out of this break, we'll tell you we got coming up for you on the program, some of the interviews that you got coming up for you planned already for next week, some more of the issues and, just further coverage we'll be doing. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this brief break on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
An earlier injury accident, eastbound Artcraft at South Deserts, blocking a couple of left lanes and causing a backup. Big backup. Global Reach southbound, spurred down to Montana, 40-minute delays. I-10 eastbound from Franklin through downtown over to the Patriot, it's a 7-minute delay. Southbound on Memorial Highway from the spur down to Montana, 5-minute delays due to road construction. And an accident downtown Campbell at Overland Avenue. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Summit Racing. Summit Racing has parts and accessories to keep your truck rolling right. Parts like lift kits, intakes, exhaust, tires, lighting, and more. From custom grills to tonneau covers, Summit Racing has you covered. SummitRacing.com. Everything you need for anything you drive.
Hey, let's force the city to buy the electric company for $8 billion.
It costs 8 times more than El Paso's budget.
Yeah.
Property taxes would skyrocket. That's an awful idea.
That's Prop K. And that's not all. Prop K shuts off water at some gas stations.
That's crazy. No bathrooms or water to stop a fire?
Small price to pay to stop pollution.
But the Environmental Protection Agency said most of El Paso's pollution comes from international sources, not us.
Let's pass it anyway.
Even if it means raising everyone's electric bills and property taxes and cutting police and firefighters?
Now you get it.
This is the worst idea ever. Who wrote this?
My neighbors did.
How can you call yourself an El Pasoan?
I don't. I'm from Austin.
Austin wrote it. Only El Paso can stop it. On May 6th, vote no on Prop K, the worst idea in El Paso history. Political ad paid for by El Pasoans for Prosperity PAC.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-989-8906 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-989-8906. That's 800-989-8906. What do you have to lose? Call 800-989-8906. Again, 800-989-8906.
Did you know that only 2 in 10 El Paso County students graduate with a bachelor's degree? By supporting Border Youth Athletic Association's mission of educational attainment, you will create a long-lasting impact in our students' lives. Your monthly donation enables 4th through 12th grade students access to after-school programs, providing a safe and healthy environment. BYAA engages and empowers El Paso's future through mentorship and leadership development. We believe every player who gets an education wins. Do you? Go to borderyouth.org and show your support for our youth today.
Lavinia Spring Wine Festival is April 29th and 30th. Info at laviniawinery.com.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. Covered up a lot of ground today, and of course, we'll do it tomorrow, because tomorrow is one of our most important days of the week, at least for me. Free-for-all Friday is what we call it, meaning we'll be taking your comments, calls, everything that we do through in a very tyrannical way throughout both hours of the program there. So if you're wanting to do that, be sure to tune in with us 4 to 6 p.m. as we do every Monday through Friday. But Friday is special. Start of the weekend for most anyway. It's kind of start of one of the highlights or heights is parts of my work week, but happy to do it, happy to be here, and happy to be involved with it. So be sure to tune in for that. Some of the other things we're working on for you, including we talking about the end of that big match challenge with the El Pasoans Fighting Hunger Food Bank. Also got some other local events, some local sponsors coming up that we'll be talking about, including Lavinia. And then, I just ever so slightly assume that Prop K will keep coming up. Particularly since we got early voting starting Monday, y'all. So this is that whole make your plan to go vote. You better have it ready to go. I mean, it's simple enough. Early voting, you can go and vote anywhere in El Paso County. So if you're registered, got all your stuff and ducks in a row, and even if you don't, because we had at least one person who recently moved and was wondering or concerned about their voter registration, A, you can vote anywhere in the county. B, always, if you are pretty sure that you can go vote, or even like mostly sure, and you're having any issues with it, always request a provisional ballot. I'm just going to put it that way. Your vote matters, and if you've gone through the steps to be registered to vote in El Paso County, you should absolutely follow through. So as much as I fully expect everyone hearing this to go vote, make sure that you're also taking anyone who is not hearing this, or those that are uninvolved but able to vote in El Paso. Take them with you. Take them to the polls. Really show them and explain to them why it's important, why they should give a hoot. And hopefully we can do something about these voter turnout rates, even if that's a overarching, much longer term issue. But hey, it takes important stuff like this being on the ballot to maybe get people involved. So I'll have to leave it there for today. Super out of time here for this show. So I do want to thank everyone that did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. We'll do it again tomorrow, as we do every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. Free for All Friday will be on deck. So until then, until next time, I want y'all to stay safe out there, look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.
News Radio 690.
An earlier injury accident, eastbound Artcraft at South Deserts, blocking a couple of left lanes and causing a backup. Big backup, Global Reach southbound, spurred down to Montana, 40-minute delays. I-10 eastbound from Franklin through downtown over to the Patriot, it's a 7-minute delay. Southbound on Memorial Highway from the spur down to Montana, 5-minute delays due to road construction. And an accident downtown Campbell at Overland Avenue. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today. For good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
Hi, I'm Burt Ward, Robin from TV's Batman, inviting you to feed your dog natural, non-GMO, Gentle Giants dog and puppy food. Dogs eating Gentle Giants and following our special feeding and care program are living as long as 27 healthy, active years with a wonderful quality of life. Holy wow, 27 years! Think of all the extra years you could enjoy with your dog at Target, H-E-B, and stores near you. Try Gentle Giants cat and kitten food, too.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
Next Thursday, you will be caught in an extreme flash flood.
Disasters don't plan ahead, but you can. Talk to your loved ones about making an emergency plan.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.